Welcome to the Education Marketing Leader podcast with Chris Repurposing. If you're looking to dive into the latest industry insights, draw inspiration from education success stories, or just want to sharpen your marketing skills, you're in the right place. Here, we bring you a diverse range of voices from experts and leaders in the field, offering you a unique blend of professional development and practical strategies. Whether you want to understand your audience better, stay updated with the latest tech trends in marketing, or expand your professional network, we've got you covered. So while you're driving on your morning commute or winding down after a busy day, let's explore the dynamic world of education marketing together.
So welcome everybody to the Education Marketing Leader Book Club. I started this book club in January. We had quite a few good books thus far. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. This is being recorded because sometimes people register for the book club, but then they're not able to make it, but they would like to hear the takeaways from it. So I'll publish this episode on my podcast and I'll go about it that way. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Chris Repurposing. I'm a marketer, currently work for an agency, higher ed marketing agency called Staymates. I'm also a podcaster of the Education Marketing Leader podcast, and then the book club was birthed from that. Like to tell stories. I got into marketing through storytelling, and I like to run on my free time to clear my mind. I'm a husband and a father of two as well, and I know I have a lot of husbands, fathers, wives here as well. So it's always a good family time. Today's book of the month is Chasing Mission Fit by Bart Caylor, and we're so grateful to have Bart with us today. It's always great to have the author with us to ask them questions towards the end. A little bit about Bart. He's the founder of Caylor Solutions. He's the podcast host, co-host of the Higher Ed Marketing podcast, Higher Ed Marketer podcast. His co-host is also here, which is Troy Singer. He's an AI junkie, so he was one of the first ones who really got on board with AI, and he's evangelizing it on the Higher Ed conference circuit a lot. So if you want to know anything about AI and how to use it, be sure to connect with Bart on that. He's the author of Chasing Mission Fit. It's his first book. There may be others in the works, husband, father, and I put Mensch in there because Bart is one of those guys. He's a serial connector. So if you ever need anybody to connect with, bounce ideas off, or want an introduction to somebody else, that there's a mutual connections. Bart is one of those guys that will happily do so. Bart, anything else that I should have added there?
I think you've covered a lot. The fact that Mensch is on there and AI Junkie sounds like I need help. That sounds great.
Yeah, well, you're doing a good job, man. You're doing a good job. So let's go into the introduction. So what I would do here is usually call out people so we know who's all here. I see a lot of familiar faces, but I also see some people that I've known from LinkedIn, but that have not been in the book club before. So I'll just go down the list that I have here. And we're starting with Troy Singer.
Troy Singer. I am a digital marketing consultant for Ring Digital, and I am proud to say that I am the co-host of the Higher Ed Marketer podcast with Bart.
Very good. It's great to have you here. Troy's a regular from the beginning, so I always appreciate his insights and his support there. Ryan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Barbold. I'm with MyDocs, and I'm the Director of College Partnerships there.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the book club. Jeremy Wood.
Hi, everybody. Jeremy Wood. I am the Director of Enrollment Systems and Operations at the University of Olivet.
Awesome. Welcome. Nicole?
Hi, I am Nicole Bumfrey. I work with Capture Higher Ed. I am their Regional Director of Enrollment Solutions.
Very good. Good to see you live on camera. I usually see you on LinkedIn in my feed, but it's good to have you here today. Thank you for being here. Jill Whitaker.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Whitaker. I'm the Director of Web Services at Southern Utah University.
Awesome. Welcome back. One of those regulars as well. Denise?
Denise Nunley, here at Arizona Christian University. I'm the enrollment marketing specialist manager, basically kind of run a one-man show of marketing at the university. So
it's good to have you. Good to meet you as well.
Good to see you, Denise. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Bart.
Pablo.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. I'm Pablo Mora. I'm head of communication at the Vice Presidency of Research and Development at the University of Santiago here in Chile.
Awesome. Welcome back. Always good to see you. Thank you again for joining us. And Julie?
Hey, I'm Julie Navarra. I'm a freelance content strategist and copywriter, and I work a lot with higher ed.
Sweet. Good to have you again. Really good to see you. Luke Phillips.
Hey everyone, nice to be with you all today. Good to see a few familiar faces. I'm Luke Phillips. I am the Executive Director of Enrollment Marketing and Digital Strategy at Pepperdine University, and looking forward to our time together today.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate you being
Good
here.
to see you, Luke.
You too.
Jeff, you got your
mute.
Yeah, yes, classic.
Way to set the tone, you guys. Jeff Ebbing, Director of Marketing and Communications at Southeastern Community College in Iowa. Been following a handful of you guys, Bart, Chris, a long time, at least in internet terms, a long time. And I've learned a lot from both of you guys. And so I'm really excited to see where we go today.
Yeah, it's great to have you again. And last but not least, Maya, welcome.
Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Dimishkovich, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Carroll Community College in Maryland. And I have a signed book from Bart. I got a chance to meet you at Engage Summit, which was exciting. So I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Very good to see you. Well, great to have you. Great to have
Maya's one-upping everyone from the very beginning.
I know. Wow. Okay. Well, this is where we're going today. So here are a couple of discussion questions that I have for you all to consider. Don't have to stick with those, but what's one of the biggest mindset shifts you're taking away from the book? What's one way you'll stretch your budget smarter? You know, budgeting on a shoestring budget or marketing on a shoestring budget. Very important chapter there. How will you stop being a short order cook in your role, and how will you tweak your content to better show your mission, and how will this book change the way you approach your marketing overall? So this is an open floor. We can just chime in. You know, we want to be respectful. If two people start talking at the same time, just take turns. But let's start with Troy Singer. Troy, you have a takeaway from me?
Sure. One of the biggest values for me was to read a book and actually reread the book by someone that I know and talk to regularly. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but as I'm going through this book, I am constantly reminded through Bart's voice of conversations that I've heard him give this advice on our podcast or on client meetings. And I can tell you that all of it is very authentic. He truly believes in a lot of the things that he's conveyed in this book. I think as far as a mind shift that Bart says more often than others, and something that he's very adamant about because he is very passionate to help smaller and also faith-based colleges and universities, is the mind shift of making sure that you don't use generic claims like a lot of them either knowingly or unknowingly do, to think that that's going to be a attractor to prospective students, but actually, and I'll ask him to kind of dig a little deeper and give some examples of going in and saying, hey, what is a true differentiator, outside of, your campus and smaller class sizes and the faculty, and why do your students come to your university, and really lean into that, and then take those messages and identify the true watering holes or communities that your prospective students, your mission fit students are. And I've heard him say this in so many different ways within so many conversations. And I wish it was something that more marketing executives at these schools actually grabbed onto and had the mind shift of. Bart, if you could please comment on that, because that is something that I don't know if you realize you convey so well to others when we're on calls.
Yeah, I think that, and I was at a board meeting this Saturday at one of our clients that I was trying to explain to them mission fit marketing, and it's so easy, and you'll hear it from the boards, and you'll hear it from leadership sometimes. It's like, hey, we just need to get more people to know about us, and at the end of the day, there it doesn't matter. I mean, if you in your city, you think about how many people out of 100% need higher education. Well, is that 50%? 40%? It's even on their radar. And then when you start talking about the kind of higher ed you have, whether it's faith-based, community college, flagship, private, public, regional, whatever it is, how many people want that kind of higher ed? And then how many people actually want the programs that you offer and that are willing to pay the amount you have? Well, the amount of people you actually need to be talking to is a much smaller slice of the pie. And there's over 4,500 schools in North America that students can choose from. And so, and the vast majority of them are saying the same thing. And so how do you make sure that you're articulating your unique mission and who you are distinctively in a way that's going to attract the people that are looking for that? Because I tell people, I said, there's plenty of students out there. I mean, I know there's the enrollment cliff, I know there's everything else, but there are students who want what you have. And many times they're settling for another school because they didn't know about you. And so we've got to be in the right places at the right time, and buying lists and all the other things that enrollment tends to do isn't going to be sustainable going forward. And so we've got to think of other ways to really be able to chase these mission fit students. And you only got to know who the mission fit students are is if you know yourself.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning into the episode today. I hope you're enjoying it so far. This episode is brought to you by StayMates, a full-service marketing agency servicing colleges and universities throughout the country. For more than 40 years, StayMates has helped higher ed institutions strengthen their brands, launch digital campaigns, and drive measurable enrollment growth. From audience research and content strategy to digital design and accessibility, StayMates brings deep expertise and a practical, results-driven approach to every engagement. Looking for a partner who really gets higher education? Learn more at staymates.com. Again, this is staymates.com for more information. And now, back to the episode.
I really enjoy reading this book. So thank you very much, Bart, for this great book. First of all, because I think that this book addresses the key challenges that usually university communication teams often face. I always say that we face the dark side of the force inside the university. Because in the book you address a problem like for example generic communication versus targeted communication. So always we heard our bosses, for example, that they want to communicate for everyone. So you are very clear in the book that this focus on mission fit audiences. Second, how we can address the challenge of content creation. And this is very interesting because in the book, you said that universities are content-rich environment, and it's true. So we have the challenge not maybe to create from scratch new content, but repurposing existing material like, I don't know, lectures, seminars, and papers. So, for example, some weeks ago, I connect with a teacher at the university here in Santiago, which is expert in black holes. So she usually write papers about black holes. And so I took this information, this knowledge, and we create together with the teacher a podcast, a very short podcast to explain all the aspects of black hole, for example. So universities are very interesting because I think the universities have a very different advantage if we compare with another brand, because by the nature of the university, we have a very rich content from faculties and so on. So content creation is a very interesting challenge at the university. Then the storytelling, of course, encourage, communicate personal stories. Usually the board here want to communicate the structure, the programs, but not the story behind this structure and this story. So, and finally, the lack of money, because in the university, we don't have too much money to develop very big campaigns. So it was very interesting. I repeat that it was very interesting book for me, because you addresses all these problem that we face when it comes to communicate from a university. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Pablo. I really appreciate that. And I think one thing I would add to what you said that is probably, if I were to redo the book now, I would include in it would be
ask them to see if they're
the AI, use of AI. I mean, if you think about the fact that, you know, you talked with the professor about black holes, we have so many papers. If you're in a research institution, you're going to have a ton of different papers that come along. And, you know, and most of them, yes, you're going to go and you're going to sit down with the professor, you're going to write a press release about the paper. That's just standard operating procedure. But actually to be able to take that and then use AI to help you, one, make it more understandable, you know, just take it into a prompt and say, you know, rewrite this for a fourth grader so they would understand it. And so it'll take the concepts and get it down. Or if you have lectures, you can take Opus Pro and put the hour-long lecture from YouTube into Opus Pro and get different clips you can use for social media. There's all kinds of ways that AI can be used to be able to help you generate variations of content, or even be able to kind of make different content out of your existing content. So again, content's going to be one of the engines that's going to continue to drive things. Content is your number one way to improve search engine optimization and generative engine optimization, GEO. I've had so many people talk about, hey, you know, we're hiring an SEO firm. I'm like, well, what are they doing for you? Well, they're tweaking all the code. They're doing all this stuff. That's such a small part of it that people are investing tons of money in, that just writing a blog post once a week would really bump up your SEO 10 times faster than it will to be futzing around with the back end of your website. And so, so this will be a good time. My next book that I just finished the manuscript on is questions that leaders need to be asking about marketing. And so I explain like what SEO is. And these are the questions you need to be asking your team, because this is the best practices and these are the things, or this is what pay-per-click is. And these are the questions you need to be asking if you're a leader, because I've seen way too many leaders that are making marketing decisions without understanding and not asking the right questions. And so that's another passion that I have, is that, you know, that we make better decisions as institutions. And so there's your teaser for today.
When is it coming out?
It'll come out in January.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, we'll see you next time.
I don't have a title yet. We either have like You Don't Know What You Don't Know, or Leadership Literacy for Marketing. We're working that out. So
how about just make better decisions, like you just said?
I like that one. I'm going to write that down, Jill. I might say as proposed by Jill Whitaker. So that's great.
Okay. I'll take a quarter as royalty.
That's not going to be worth much. Let me tell you that.
1/4.
That's right. Oh.
Well, since I'm talking, I'll just chime in with the whole concept of the short order cook really resonated with me, because I feel like my whole 25-year career in higher ed is short order cook. You know, it's like, we have this thing that's happening today or tomorrow, or as our fall semester has been kicking back up, you know, there's we've got this event happening for the new students, but we didn't set this up. We need you to do this right now. And I'm sitting there, and after reading your book, the phrase keeps popping into my head, the back of my mind, every time I hear that. I just think short order cook. And I'm like, how do I put the brakes on this better though? And anytime I try to do, I usually feel really bad, like I'm not being a good partner there. But it's definitely, I feel like that's one of the things that we do a lot in higher ed. It's not the long-term planning on things, it's just, we've decided to do something, act now, go, which is funny too, because we always say higher ed doesn't move fast, and we don't, except for at the last minute, and then we have to scramble and move really fast.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I have to give props out to Ethan Braden. He's the one who kind of coined that short order cook and chef on the first one of the podcasts we did with him on the higher ed marketer. But you're so right. And I think part of it is we have to push back on our institutions or leadership to say, look, I've been a short order cook for so many years. This is what's going on. This is the way it is. Is that the way you want our institution to do our marketing? If so, you know what? I'll put on my little paper hat and I'll go to town. I'll do it. But if you are saying, no, we want to lean into something more, we want to be more strategic, we want to be better, then that has to change. And it's really difficult when you're the short order cook to be making the change to being the chef. And so being able to talk to your VP or talk to whomever you're reporting to help them understand, give them a copy of the book, give them a copy of that chapter if you want, and just help them understand of what's being left on the table by the way that your team has to be operating. And, I use that term institutional Kinkos. I mean, if you guys are the institutional Kinkos, there are better ways to do it. And so I appreciate you saying that, Jill. That's good insight. So thank you.
I'd actually use that same term with my folks, telling them the same thing within my own team. And I tell them people actually prefer you to not be the short order cook, but be the chef. Bring them the thing that delights them more specifically. Because my folks, our teams get stuck in doing all this stuff that we roll our eyes, and if they would just. So I've been trying to put it back on my team. Well, go back and show them your expertise. Say, thank you for this. Might I suggest X, Y, Z?
Right.
And most of the time they're engaging and they appreciate that. But I think you have to build that mindset within your team to be able to empower them to do that and encourage them that you've been doing this job for X number of years. You're better than the person who's asking you for this. So use that leverage that expertise. So it really resonated with me too. And I love that the same ideas and the same analogies are coming at me for the same reason.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
I would also just double click on that even. I loved, Bart, when you had in there the old adage of measure twice, cut once. I grew up in a woodworking shop with my grandfather, and as I was reading those words, I literally smelt the wood like it was one of those things. So you hit all of those olfactory senses when you wrote that for me. But I love that idea of literally just taking that step back to breathe, to Jill's point, before you run, because you're right. Higher ed moves slow until the last minute, and the mistakes are probably the things you want to avoid the most. So just taking that step back, rereading, double clicking before hitting that nervous send or hitting that publish or whatever that is, just taking that moment to rethink.
That's great. Thanks, Nicole.
I think also like on my side, I came from like one of the biggest takeaways for me came from Embry-Riddle before coming to Arizona Christian University. And so, two very specific audiences, but very, very different. And I think identifying the watering holes and trying to figure out places where we can align in a market like here at Arizona Christian, where we compete with Grand Canyon, who has done a really good job of marketing to Christian students, and so trying to find like, how can we differentiate our message and find those watering holes where maybe Grand Canyon hasn't gotten their hold on yet. So I appreciated that piece as kind of like my big takeaway coming out of this. And I actually read the book right when I got started here at Arizona Christian, because my boss was a pretty big proponent of the tactics that were in there. So he has since moved on. So
okay.
So we are, which is honestly a good thing, because I think, as you guys all said, like I had I had the same kind of drinking from a fire hose, but also like he's one that was a very like, let's pivot and do this and pivot and do this and pivot and do this. And there didn't seem like there was ever strategy.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to maybe this next chapter and being able to be a little more strategic with my marketing. So.
Well, and what you bring up, Denise, is so common. I mean, I work with so many different schools, and I'm sure that, you know, Ryan, you could speak to this, and Troy to a degree because you guys are on the outside. But you'd be amazed at how many different schools are running and gunning without any strategy. There's just not a lot. It's survival mode. It's Jill, what you described as just, you know, it's the short order cook, and that's what makes it so difficult, is that we all know there are better ways to do it. There's ways that we can be more efficient, we can be better, and I think that taking the time to do the strategy, or making the time to do the strategy, I think is one of the keys to this whole thing, is because things are changing so quickly. I mean, when I do my public presentations, I start with a slide that talk about the headwinds that are facing higher ed right now. And so, I mean, we all know about the enrollment cliff. We've talked about the search cliff. You know, the idea that AI is going to transform everything more than anybody realizes and faster than anybody realizes. We've seen that already happening. And then just the public perception of higher ed. I mean, you read the stories about Harvard versus the administration. There's just, people are kind of getting tired, and they're just going to throw up their hands and say, you know what? I heard that Amazon's getting ready to do an online course. I've got a niece who, she found a website that for $100 a month, she can get an associate's degree. That's what she's looking at, because she's like, I don't have time to figure out everything else, even though I'm telling her, hey, go check out this school, check out that school. She's like, I don't know, I can just put my credit card down and go do it. That's the kind of stuff that we're competing against, and we're all worried about, well, we're competing against each other. I'm like, the world is shifting, guys. We gotta pay attention. And so if you don't have strategy and you can't articulate your value proposition correctly, you're going to lose all day long to that. And that's the challenge that we face. You know, the existential challenge we face in higher education do people understand why it's worth it? And that's a bigger issue beyond just our own schools.
Absolutely.
I'll piggyback. You're exactly right, Bart and Denise. Students and parents, they want proof, right? Not promises. And like, I think that's where it's changed over the years that I've seen. It's less transactional and more transformational, right? Instead of just, oh, click here, apply now, visit us. Like, they want to see physical proof and physical outcomes, which I think is really important when you're marketing to those prospective students and all. So.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. That's great.
I wanted to add a quick note, just sorry, going back to the short order cook discussion. That really resonated with me as I read the book. So at Pepperdine, the integrated marketing communications department used to really operate that way. So it wasn't really involved in moving the needle. It was more taking requests, as you noted in the book, Art, you know, for flyers and stuff like that. And so about 2 years ago, the board and president and leadership made a decision that we wanted to move forward in a way that, as I like to say, that we would be change makers and not order takers within the marketing department. And we want to be a sort of not a cost center, but revenue center. And so we centralized marketing, which was just a huge feat, but it's been really incredible. So we brought in a CMO and a VP, and we created an enrollment specific division, which I lead, that are not all disjointed. We're all together. And so we do, you know, as IMC, still make flyers and things, but it's, I think, a lot more strategic and has been a good experience. But overall, that topic really, you know, resonated with me, and really appreciated that portion of your book.
Thanks, Luke. And I do hold up stuff that's going on at Pepperdine between what you and I talked about with Troy on the podcast, with your trifecta type of way of approaching enrollment marketing, as well as, you know, with Michael being out on campus and things, just seeing all that you guys are doing. You guys are really doing it well. And so I think that you guys, I would look to Pepperdine for good things.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Hey, Bart, I have a question for you, I guess. As you know, I really resonated with the piece on identifying mission fit students. And it's something I felt for many, many years at all institutions, is we try to hit everybody, and by doing that, I think we really miss a lot of those mission fit students. But having been at the leadership table and having to try to have that conversation, I think leadership often hears that as we need to cut back,
right?
rather than say, we're going to get who we want and serve and keep them. They look at it as a reduction. Have you found any strong talking points that really help change that mindset?
Yeah, a couple things that I would focus on, and this actually came up in the board meeting I was at on Saturday, because after I explained that, somebody said, so does that mean that some people might not want to come here? I'm like, yeah, and that's a good thing if they figure that out before you waste any time on them. I mean, I would rather have people self-select when they see the website and say, I don't know about this. This isn't for me. Great. You did not waste 1 minute of my admissions team on that. And that's where the challenge of, because I mean, lately in the last several years, app volume has been a measurement of success. And whenever I'm in a meeting and I hear them say, hey, apps are up 1,000% from last year, I'm like, good for you, but how's your team doing with that? I mean, and that's a challenge sometimes for small schools that are, they decide to get into the Common App. They're like, we got look at these apps. We got so many apps now. How many of those apps are just a box that are checked versus somebody who's actually serious about wanting to know about your school? And then all of a sudden you're dealing with chasing ghosts for 8 months, and they never had any intention of coming to your school. And so I always talk about yield, because at the end of the day, I mean, if my app numbers go down and my, all the other numbers go down, but yield and deposit are up, man, that's a win. And so really helping your leadership and your administration understand what are the numbers that are really important and what are the ones that are vanity. Because I mean, it's like Google Analytics. You can say, look at all the clicks we have on our website. Well, look at the bounce rate too before you get really excited. And so there's always another side to the coin. And so whenever I'm talking to administrators, I like to make sure that they understand what are the true metrics that we need to be paying attention to that are actually going to move the needle on net revenue. It's going to move the needle on enrollment. It's going to actually impact the bottom line of the institution, because like I said, I mean, you can have all the apps that you want, but if all of your admissions team is chasing ghosts and and yield is just plummeting because nobody gets the attention they deserve, that doesn't help anybody either.
I wrestled with some of that same stuff. Our admissions folks for a long time, get them to fill out the app, But with a lot of our high school kids, they'll take a dual enrollment class, get them to fill out the app. And it was really hard so then we would have not a lot of inquiries because they always went straight to the app. Right. And so there was all those extra steps that were involved that maybe it made sense at a certain point of time, but when we get into this kind of marketing that we do, I don't get you to the app, I get you to the inquiry form. And so then my numbers look different than enrollment's numbers because they're pushing the app so much. And like you're saying, these students are doing it because they're sitting in class and the teacher's telling them to do it.
Right.
Let's get an inquiry instead. It's a different, like you're saying, it's a different way to do that. I am interested though, you're talking about, because I'm trying to set up a dashboard for exactly the same reason as what are, like, if you had to pick, let's say 3 or 4 of the top indicators that tell you, your marketing office, maybe not so much admissions and other folks, how you're doing, what would those be and why?
Any metric that's going to measure engagement. So if you're able to, measure prospective students and their visits to the website. I know some of the Salesforce and some of those CRMs will allow you to do that, where I can actually see, they click through and there's GA4 will allow you to do that if it's set up correctly. And so being able to understand engagement, because what happens is if you can have engagement, let's say you're working with a name by 40,000 names. And, instead of sending out 40,000 postcards, you can say, hey, our engagement score shows us that these 10,000 students are really engaged. Those are the ones that you want to start doing some love on with postcards and with other things. And so starting to segment even not the demographics and psychographics, but even just the behavioral, to be able to make better decisions. Because again, we can't afford to send direct mail to everybody, but we should be sending it to the people that are most engaged. And so being able to really make better decisions based on behavioral, based on engagement, based on psychographic. So, sometimes predictive is a really good metric that I'd like to follow at the beginning too. And so those are the types of things that are going to be more effective, because if you just do the same thing to everybody, that's where you lose money, because because you've got stuff that's showing up in the trash without even being looked at. And emails, and people are like, well, the emails that they don't really cost us anything. Well, if you send too many at once, they do, because you get blacklisted and you get all kinds of problems, or you can't segment well enough. And so I just think that, any kind of metric, Jeff, that you can follow on with that has some kind of KPI that's going to be able to show you an engagement level, or it's going to be able to give you something that's going to be more than just a vanity number.
I just want to piggyback on metrics too, because we had a postcard that I caught wind of that went out from our university one time, and they just stuck a URL on it directly to the website, deep linking into it. And I was like, huh, interesting. And I said, I have an idea here. What if we made a short link and a QR code that had tracking on those? Then you could see how many people actually used it from your mailer. And all of a sudden the admissions office is like, wait, we can do that? And I'm like, yeah. And it's just, they didn't even think to ask about that beforehand.
It's 1982 again.
So. Yeah. So we did that. And then they're sitting there, the next round, they're like, we have an idea. And just, this might be crazy. They're like, what if we had 2 different mailing lists and we had 2 different QR codes and tracking to show on that? Is that even possible? And I'm like, totally possible. And it was just like cracking the door a little bit to get them to realize they could open the floodgates to metrics that would help them do stuff that made a difference. Because then they figured out, oh, mailing to this certain list, there was no outcome from that. We don't need to waste our money doing direct mailing to that group. But this group actually responded, like the parent group did, more so than, the kids or something like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jill. And I think that in yesterday's blog post that we published was on, view books and how print still works, but then there's also the ability to start really integrating digital into view books. So whether it's QR codes or whether it's informed delivery or all kinds of things that you can do, there's a ton of technology out there that as marketers, it's our responsibility to stay up to speed on that, to know what we have, what the toolbox consists of, and be able to pull out a screwdriver and say, have you guys considered doing a Phillips head screwdriver instead of that wonky thing you're trying to do, and giving them options that then increases the effectiveness of what the school's trying to do. And that only happens when we get out of that short order cook thing, because if you're flinging burgers all day long, you can't step back and sit through and read through a recipe book to get ideas. And so that's where it's important for us as leaders to be able to dictate what our team and our time is about, so that we can bring the best of the ability to the school.
Yep.
This is good stuff.
Maya, penny for your thoughts.
Oh, I am deep in thought, and I think Jeff can probably relate to this. Since we work at a community college, we have very broad audiences from cradle to cradle. And our mission is so broad that, while I do love the name of your book, Chasing Mission Fit, for community colleges, I would be very careful saying it to my leadership, because our mission is so broad, and they think that we serve everyone, right?
And in a way, sometimes you do, and I get that, but
yeah, it's interesting. But to kind of address the fit and to help people understand that we're not for everyone, right? We have developed a brand strategy, and we have a brand positioning statement that clearly defines who our college is for and who it's not, and what are the key differentiators, and why would somebody choose us. So I would, for community college, I would change it to Chasing Brand Positioning statement. Because it's more specific, right? The mission is so broad. But I do love the name, though, because it is a pain point.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people about the fact that your mission fit students are the people that you recruited, you enrolled, you retained, you graduated, and then are really happy with what they have. And if you can identify those people that went through those steps, and that you can find more people that will do that every time, that's who your mission fit is. Even at a community college level, yes, you serve everyone, but if you have those success factors and you measure mission fit on who actually does this and succeeds, and because I mean that's one of the challenges with community colleges is historically just horrible retention rates. And so if you have everybody, but you can focus on the ones that are going to retain and actually you can predict that they're going to graduate, you're still serving everyone, but you're really kind of being able to fill your institution with more people that are going to graduate. So.
Well, if we're able to carve out the people, like if I know there's a student that's going to go to a private Christian college, you're probably not picking a community college. And so they're just like it's still true what you're saying. I mean, we're targeting the folks who are most likely to attend the whole thing. And I always lean into, if you get the money, if you want to do this and that, go to those schools. I've said that in our ads before, because we want to make sure we're serving the right people. And I always lean into, you person who is going to go to our school, you're savvy because this is right for you, and empower them to feel good about their decision. A lot of students apologetically, yeah, I'm going to the community college. Well, no, you go into this. This is a decision for you. So it's still all about the framing and how
it's all framing.
How people say that.
Well, and as you and Maya probably know more than anybody else on this call, one of the biggest competitors that higher ed in general is going to have is trade schools in the next couple of years, because there is a vast shortage of the trades right now. And there's also, students are starting to realize that, you know what, I can go to a trade school, become a plumber in 3 years, make more money than I ever dreamed of, and not have any debt, and start my life quicker. There's the practicality of Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going to start leaning into that, and the society is starting to lean into that. So you're going to see a lot more higher ed that's leaning into the trades too. I mean, I've got one school right now that's a ministry school that requires a double major. You have to have a degree in Bible or whatever you're going to do as a pastor, but you also either have to be a diesel mechanic or a welder or a plumber. And so, and then they have a different track for some of the women as far as cosmetology and a few other things. So they're actually preparing their students to go out into the workforce to not only lead churches, but also be able to have supplemental incomes and skills. And so, that's one example, but I think that more and more people are going to be wanting to have options. And I still maintain that higher ed, especially in the age of AI, your sense of community, the sense of that experience as a young person of what happens in the 4 years of development, that if you can do that with the trades, with other parts that they want, that's where success is going to come, because it's not going to be an either or. We're going to have to figure this out. So.
Just to piggyback off of that too, a few years ago at Southern Utah University, we set up a partnership with a trade school in the area. And so a lot of students, that would go in and do an automotive program, an electrician program at the trade school, then they would be informed about the partnership with Southern Utah University. And you can take this business class, and get a certificate on top of it, so that if you are running your own business, you at least know how you can do your books properly and do all this stuff.
Great.
And that is another thing where we've opened the door to something, and a lot of those students have, come back and they're like, so we're a few years into it now, they're like, hey, I graduated, I finished that, I have my business, but now I'm kind of I need to hire more people and I need to do more work. I think I need more skills on top of that. And so they're looking at getting a bachelor's degree on top of it. So whereas a long time ago, I would have thought, no, college isn't for everybody, because we definitely need people in the trades and stuff like that. Now I think that if a university has ways to get people into a fit that's right for everybody, you can make college something that is viable for everybody. It's just reimagined from what we used to think about the classic intellectual sitting there arguing the political ideologies and something,
the sage from the stage.
Yeah. The Aristotle approach.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hiding under the tree about.
Yeah, we need to be a little bit more hybrid in our approach. And that's going to start with marketing, and it's going to start with all of us in this room. That's why you got to have time to think. So
I like
that. I'm so proud that you guys are on this call. This is your time to think together.
I like what you're saying, Jill. I also had a question, because I was reading an article earlier this week about colleges going to a 3-year bachelor's, and I'd be curious what you guys, Bart and others, are thinking about how that's going to change things up.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that schools are doing that is because so many students are coming in with their freshman year done because they have so much AP. And so you're going to have a lot of schools that are financially not going to be able to succeed if they just do 3-year bachelors, because they either didn't sell the dual enrollment on the front end, and they sold it at pennies on the dollar, because instead of the regular tuition. So a lot of schools are going to 3+1 programs. So get them into a 3-year bachelor and a 1-year master's, so that in 4 years you're going to be able to walk away. And that's really popular in like education, where master's is going to be kind of more of a requirement for some different levels of salary. It's important in business. It's important in accounting, things like that. And so again, that's where it's important to have marketers at the table for new program development, because we're the ones who understand what the marketplace is like. We know how to do the research. We know how to get out there and do that type of thing, as well as we need to be at the table for sunsetting. The days of faculty driving everything as far as program development and sunsetting needs to end. That's what I'm telling presidents right now, is like, and that's happening now with, just some of the administrative laws, in the sense that, at least here in Indiana, if you don't have at least 25 people in your program, you can't have a program at a state institution anymore. And so this idea of just these little pet projects of faculty and stuff, that doesn't sustain universities. It doesn't sustain higher education. And so, I'm speaking a little bit in front of my headlights here, because I know enough to be dangerous. But that's the kind of stuff that, as marketers, we're the ones that can help that. We can look at the data. We can help them inform the fact that, hey, from our market research, not a lot of demand for underwater basket weaving right now. Not sure we need to do this program, and not sure you're asking me to market this, because then it comes back to, well, the marketing stunk. That's why we don't have people in our program. No, you don't have people in your program because nobody wants it. I mean, that's the end of the day. So.
Great stuff, Bart. Thank you so much for that. Any other questions? We got about 10 more minutes before we move on to the next one. So I guess I really like the part where you discussed repurposing, like Disney, taking the stuff that you have and then just making sure you get the most life out of it, because I've worked the last 3 years before I made a job switch as a solo marketer as well. And it's just like, you only got so much time, right? But if you have, for example, like Pablo said, you have a subject matter expert on a very particular topic like black holes that the majority of people probably won't understand in the marketplace if you don't simplify it. So if you can do that through a podcast, then you have the transcript, and you can put it into AI, and you can get a blog post out of it, social media post out of it, give it more life and just more marketing in that way, instead of just having it one research paper that only the academics will read. So I think that's a good way to approach repurposing content. Is there anything else you would suggest as it comes to repurposing, how to get the most life out of things? Maybe these days it's YouTube Shorts, for example, to drive more people to your website.
Yeah, I think that, obviously the different modes, YouTube Shorts, YouTube Long, all kinds, you need all kinds. But I think the other thing to keep in mind is, when you're developing content, figure out how it can be evergreen. Too much of our content has just got a shelf life of a couple weeks. We're either promoting the next event or promoting the golf outing or whatever it is. We need to have content that's out there that's evergreen, that is going to be search engine and generative engine optimized. And so, in the book, I talk about the idea of, sitting down with your admissions team and getting the 50 questions people ask. And because so much of search is generated based on questions. I mean, back in the day when grandpas like me were, picking our way through the internet when it started, it was all keywords. And it's shifted to intent now. It's like somebody's asking a question. Google and everybody else are focused on where are the best answers, who is giving the best answers, how are those answers working. And so we've got to make sure that our content is answering those questions, as opposed to just a generic post or just a generic information. You're going to get a lot further with your content if you are tying it back to a question somebody might want to ask. So the black hole, that Pablo talked about, maybe you have that content, but in the blog post, you turn it into where's the best university to study black holes? And that becomes, the school that he's at. And so always looking back at how can you do your marketing to impact net revenue, either through enrollment or through donations and giving, because the days of just having content for content's sake, we just can't afford to do that anymore.
If anybody has anything else, I have another one. I really like so when I read the book the first time where you mentioned QR codes are like catnip for students, for Gen Z.
Yeah.
That always stuck with me. Every time I do a QR code now, I think about that line. But the other thing that when I reread the book, which stood out to me, because as somebody who works with a company, I feel the urge to slap my logo on it and just identify like, hey, this is from us. Make sure you know who created this postcard or this flyer with the QR code. But your approach was don't even have your branding on there. Just have the QR code sitting around, for example, at a conference or if you're a faith-based institution, go to a church and have those flyers out there, or youth group meetings without anything on it, just the QR code that'll take them to a video or a website. And then because they're going to be interested in, hey, there's a QR code. What's this all about? Let me scan this. Your brand's going to get in front of them regardless if they scan the thing. But if there is a logo on it, it may seem salesy or markety that they may not pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would do a black and white on one thing or the other, because I mean, I've had IT people that are like, I would never scan a QR code that wasn't, I didn't know what it was. That's a phishing type of thing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of them are. And we have to be smart, and we have to just pay attention to what the world is like right now and those types of things. But, and you also got to know your audience. I mean, Gen Alpha, Gen Z are a little bit more apt to clicking on QR codes out of curiosity. You're going to be millennials and Xers and boomers are going to be a little bit more of trying to figure it out. Again, in the silent generation, you're going to have to teach them how to do a QR code to begin with. So, you have to understand your audience and what's appropriate and what's not. And I'm not saying don't ever use your logo on a QR code, but sometimes I think just the simpler, the better. Good point.
Everyone, I have a question that Bart may be familiar with, but Bart, based on the book and what we've talked about today and our audience, if you would have one piece of advice that you would leave everyone with that kind of sums everything up, what would that be?
I see what you did there, Troy. If you listen to our podcast, it's the end of the podcast. I think what I would say is help people catch the vision. And I'm not saying this self-servingly, because believe me, I don't make any money on these little study guides. I don't make any money really on the book. But if you believe in this and your leadership needs to understand this, make sure that they have the resources, make sure. And so we put together a study guide so that people could actually go through the book as a team. And so we've had a lot of leadership teams and cabinets do it together, just to be able to have working language, to have working ability to talk about watering holes, to talk about, that we don't have to do it the way we've always done it, or to talk about, hey, there might be creative ways that we can get this done, as well as just even to understand the simplicity of not everybody is our audience, and it's okay if people don't fit. And so that's what I would say is, if you really believe it and you feel like it's made a difference and you feel like it could make a bigger difference at your institution, getting the leadership up to speed on that. I do speak a lot of times to cabinets. So if you're like, hey man, it would be great to have Bart come and do a presentation, I've got a free cabinet presentation that I do on AI that includes some mission fit stuff. A lot of times cabinets are like, oh man, we need to learn about AI. So I come in and do a hour presentation about all the possibilities that AI has in higher ed. And that's a good way for them to kind of start to build some trust and some understanding. And this board meeting that I was at on Saturday kind of started that way too. So that's just some options that I would say that, again, just having knowing what's out there for your leadership is helpful.
Very good. Thanks for that question, Troy. Now we get to the part of the session where we all hold up the book, take a quick picture for marketing this book club, and hopefully attract some more people to the
Do
next
you want
one.
me to get my book, or you want me
Yeah,
just my
man, you
face?
got it.
I got
You
it.
got it?
Here, let me get it. Okay.
All right, guys, here we go. We got this. And in 3, 2, 1. All right, I got one. Very good, everybody. Thank you so much. So we'll just go, Bart, first of all, thank you very much for being a part of this. I really appreciate your engagement there. It's always great to have somebody who's as on fire as you are, and lots of good insights to be shared there. So it's going to be a good podcast episode as well. Now, next up is the book Gears of Success by Luke Phillips. Luke Phillips is here. Luke, tell us a little bit about your book. It's a short read, not too many pages, so I think we can get through it next month. But I got a summary here. But tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris, and thanks for hosting these conversations. And just thrilled my book was chosen for next month. And also thank you, Bart, because Bart actually recommended it to you, I think, Chris. But also thank you, Bart, for your work on the book we talked about today. I enjoyed reading it, and I'm really thrilled that we'll be reading my book, especially after Chasing Mission Fit, because it touches on some similar ideas and builds and has some ways that they complement each other. So the theme of my book, again, it's just kind of a small book. It's an easy read. Is that within any given company, or in our case, higher ed institution, when we think about marketing and growth strategy, there tends to be kind of a few categories or key areas with a high concentration of focus. So we end up kind of pulling the same levers. And we do that for different reasons, often because, as we talked about today, faculty or leadership, or that's just kind of how we always did it. So the main idea of this book is to think about growth categories more holistically, as if they're sort of gears that all turn together, that there's more than one or two of them, and that by applying focus in all areas, not just one or two, there can be a synergistic effect greater than the sum of the parts. That's kind of the summary. And all the gears work together in different ways. So again, like Bart talked about, mission clarity is one of them. So that's a great way it connects, and it carries on those themes and how they support each other, like how Mission Fit supports brand development, how that, as Bart noted, impacts your cost structures and other things. So the book is written kind of for any industry, but it really had higher ed in mind when I wrote it. And then I'd encourage you as you read it to there are a lot of corporate examples, but you can translate those into what you're seeing in higher ed. And then there are tangible takeaways throughout, and help you, I think differently about a broad view of growth. So looking forward to the discussion. Thanks again, Chris.
You bet. And part of this book club is we want to support the higher ed market. You work at a university, so I want to make sure that we got yours covered as well, because it was so highly recommended by Bart when I asked for a recommendation. So really appreciate Bart doing the recommendation. I haven't heard of it before. I was able to connect with Luke, and I really look forward to reading this book. And I schedule it for September 25th because it's about 130, 150 pages. So
yeah, it's about 200, but it's small. It's very small,
yeah.
so not a lot on each page.
I was looking for my copy to hold up, and I can't. It's not at my fingertips.
Yeah. So I think we're going to be able to make it within.
You can see kind of the difference in size here.
Yeah. No. Well, it's a good book. It's a good one. It's available on Kindle and on Amazon as a hardcover, or paperback. So really think we got a good date here, September 25th, and then we'll see what we're going to do in October, and probably take November and December off. But I want to finish the year strong and then start again in the new year. But I think this is a good next book. As always, if you have any recommendations from the industry that you would like to read, I did reach out to Donald Miller. He wrote the Story Brand book, but he's 25,000 to get on this. So I was like,
Luke and I are a little cheaper, so
yes, I did put a proposal, and I talked to the organizer. She said, hey, you can just put a proposal and put 0 on. So I did. I filled out a proposal. I said, hey, would you like to speak at us? Haven't heard back. Who knows? Maybe he will, but I doubt it. But for now, we'll keep our fingers.
We tried to get him on the podcast, Chris. So
you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, don't hold your breath.
I won't. Seth Godin is next then.
I tried to get him on the podcast. He did reply to me and said,
"He did. Oh,
not
nice.
right now. Thank you though." So
Well, if there's, you can always reach out to me. Be sure to connect with each other. And other than that, thank you all for being a part of it. As always, it's always a pleasure to host. And guys, have a good rest of your week. You take care.
Thanks, guys. Good to see y'all.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bart. Thanks, Chris.
And that's a wrap for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Education Marketing Leader Podcast this week. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and your network. And if you ever thought about starting your own podcast, now that you listen to one and you got inspired, reach out to me via DM. We'd love to help you launch your own. We'll take care of everything for you, the scripting, the strategy, the editing, the distribution. All you have to do is show up, connect with your audience, and build your personal brand. So if you're ready for it, let's chat. And for everybody else, we'll see you next time at the Education Marketing Leader Podcast. Take care, friends.